Hey everybody, welcome. So I was browsing X, taking a bit of a break from Expedition 33, and I saw this post by Pio. The post says, "Are lower budget games from $40 to $60 the future of gaming?" Now, I know, Pio is just one of those accounts that often posts either cringe or hype posts for just about anything, so I usually ignore them, but on this one I couldn't help but comment. But then the comment just kept getting bigger and bigger and I figured, hey, what the hell? Let's turn it into a script, make a video, talk about the situation. So, are lower budget games the future of gaming? In the picture he's got 4 games listed as examples: Split Fiction, Astrobots, Expedition 33 and Helldivers 2 as a representation of this success. Right off the bat, I don't like Expedition 33's association with this list because all the other games belong to big companies. Helldivers 2 and Astrobot were published by Sony and Split Fiction was published by EA, though of course they are of much smaller scale than what these companies usually publish. I think that gains them a little bit of extra leeway, but it doesn't ensure their future, it doesn't ensure their success. In my view, being associated with these companies right now is in and of itself a major problem. The future of this industry isn't based on a budget number, like Sony and EA cannot walk into one of their studios making games for them and go, "Okay fellas, so instead of $300 million, we're going to give you $50 million and you will make a miracle of a video game for our brand that is a total banger. Okay, thanks, bye." The very inner workings of these companies, these major publishers, is the main issue. If they don't fix it, it's honestly a case to say that the future of gaming does not exist with them. They are crashing and burning hard and fast. They're making games that people are straight up not interested in, and they are charging even more for it. Nintendo and Xbox already made their little announcements that the standard price of their games is going to go up from $70 to $80. And this is obviously going to be followed by everyone else, especially those that are struggling because they don't understand. They somehow think that if their products are not appealing to people right now at $70, suddenly if they make it $80, everything's going to be okay. And it's not just the pricing either, it's their mindset, it's their identities these days. It's like they're ashamed of being video game companies. It's like they're ashamed of relating to us as gamers because gamers are supposedly bad and toxic and this and that and the other. And so yeah, in this video we're going to talk a bit about why, without mincing words and without ignoring the nasty side of things to do with corporatization and especially company politics and contemporary matters that affect the games and the workplace. A bit of a disclaimer first, because a lot of people online get immediately turned off whenever this stuff is brought up. I don't know what it is that causes them to get so mad at uncomfortable truths, but I've had people subscribe to me in my Nintendo videos criticizing their price hikes and the damage that they would bring, who then left a salty comment and unsubscribed after seeing some of my other videos talking about culture war issues affecting the industry. Some were even in those very videos going, "Oh, I agreed with everything that you were saying, but then you said this one thing here which goes against my political worldview or whatever, and now I don't like you anymore." And hey, fair enough, over the past couple of weeks, during and after those Nintendo videos, I did take a bit of a vacation and avoided the topic, making several videos talking about other things. Maybe this had some of these new people get the wrong idea of my channel, like maybe I'm just one of these chill dudes like Pio or the Actman or whatever, who pretend as if there isn't an ideology plaguing the industry and only call out the corporations when it's about game prices and greed, but no, I call everything out. I'm still just a chill dude, I'm just not going to ignore the elephant in the room no matter what it is. If it's wrong, if it damages the industry, then I'm calling it out, and holy hell, the fact that we're in 2025 and some people will still downplay this or straight up pretend like it doesn't exist, despite all we've seen not just from the games, the studios, but also the gaming news media, is nuts, and shows that we still gotta keep talking about it and calling it out responsibly. So yeah, I'm gonna keep doing that going forward. I'll still make videos on other topics and on games, but this isn't going away until it goes away. So if this ends up making you mad because of me mentioning diversity quotas, for example, despite having actual receipts that I always place on screen when I do so, then I don't know what to tell you. Go ahead and be mad, and when you wake up, my videos will still be here for you. Alright, now let's dive in. So obviously the politics side of things is not the only issue that is keeping these companies from making games like Expedition 33. In many ways, the politics side of things actually comes from another issue, kind of like a side effect of it, which is the corporatization of these studios. And what I mean by corporatization, by the way, is when a studio makes a lot of good games and gets a lot of money and then starts expanding. But in the midst of this expansion, they start losing their identity and their mission because they're focusing on other crap that they don't need to make video games. A great studio's sole mission is to deliver the best game that they possibly can, so of course they're very active with their communities. They're listening to what people want, they're keeping an eye on industry trends and making smart decisions to directly appeal to their fan bases and make sure that they're not turning people away with god-awful choices that make no sense. They cater to their communities because their communities bring them the big dollars. But when this corporatization takes place, suddenly the quality of the games takes a back seat, and suddenly those fan bases that they spent years fostering into massive communities, hungry for their next games, they don't matter anymore. Suddenly they not only stop listening to them, but in some cases they often go against them, which is ironic because of course they're still game studios, and they're still working on games that they supposedly want people to buy and play because they're now investing a lot of that hard-earned money into them, dedicating hundreds of millions of dollars to making a single video game. But there's a big change. They have other responsibilities now. They have a corporate brand and facade now. They're no longer just a game studio, they are a corporate entity that happens to make games. That environment where those great games once came from is now different. The studio culture from which they were formed has changed, and often some of the very people that were instrumental in making those games are gone. And in their place, there's new annoying corporate responsibilities, and I don't mean basic stuff like making sure that your investors are happy. I mean garbage, such as commitments to social impact or social change. This is where those pesky politics come into place, because when it comes to this stuff, it's supercharged with political correctness, oversensitivity, and other contemporary social-political elements, like for example DEI, which of course is tethered to all kinds of other things, such as those aforementioned quotas, identity politics, intersectionality, etc. And it's so stupid. I mean, why does a video game company, why does a game itself as a product have to commit itself to social change or social impact? It's a video game, it's entertainment. This comes in many shapes and forms and also degrees. There's companies that dive into it head first, and there's others that dip their toes and flap around in the surface. The harder you go in, the worse it is, because inherently speaking, these elements, as we currently know them, meaning as they are currently employed, often in activistic ways, are antithetical to gaming. They are bad for entertainment media in general. Like, you can even be someone who agrees with this stuff politically or societally. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I don't mind giving my opinion. I personally don't like it. For me, it's very simple. DEI in practice and its attached ideology are discriminatory, and I don't believe that we are building a better future by propagating race, gender, or sexuality-based discrimination. It's as simple as that. I can very clearly and calmly go into why, if anyone wants to get into it in the comments respectfully or suggest it as a future video, but my point right now is simply that you may even look at these values, let's say, and agree with them, but regardless of whether you do or don't, this stuff just does not work nor belong in entertainment. It's obnoxious, it's preachy, it's unrealistic, it's caked in double standards, it's not creative, it's not interesting, it's just nothing of worth whatsoever. It's like turning on the evening news or some shit right in the middle of enjoying a good game or movie or whatever it is. It's actually worse than that now that I think of it. It's basically made to gaslight you. It's not only that it's boring and doesn't fit, it's that it's made purposefully to gaslight people, to piss them off, to rile them up, and to rob them of their escapism. It breaks immersion in the worst way possible. It totally destroys the escapism that fiction is meant to bring us, and it is needlessly divisive. When employed in force, it's just like propaganda that serves only to fuel further division between people, and this is the most disgusting part of it all, because entertainment should be a common thing for us all to look forward to and enjoy, something that links us instead instead of separating us. Instead, throughout years of this being the dominant thing in media, going back further through TV, film, and streaming services, we now have morons literally lying in wait to see if whatever new movie or game or whatever from whatever franchise is personally supporting, upholding, or validating their political side. If it is, they praise it for representation, and if it isn't, they condemn it for not being progressive enough. So this stuff, it doesn't work. The harder you go into it, the worse your product is going to be. We've seen example after example after example after example of this shit failing across TV, film, and video games. There's no avoiding this at all. It is what it is. And yet, we are still seeing companies doing this stuff. And yeah, I believe that they're going to stop as time goes by, they have to if they want to survive. I believe they're going to downscale it gradually, but a lot of them are still invested into it. Their studio culture is still ingrained with it. Studios are still going out of their way to spend money on either contracting these sensitivity consultants such as Sweet Baby Inc. or hiring people for building their own departments in-house. So they are literally spending money on corrosive shit that is ultimately resulting in worse products, bringing them less money because of its unappealing nature. Do you see how dumb this is in practice? We'll get into more of this in the next timestamp. And we see this across the board. Just with Expedition 33 itself, we already see it in action by all the people who immediately noticed two major things while playing. First, the strict focus on that fictional world. The lore, the background stories, the characters, and the plot, without any unnecessary retarded tropes or dialogues trying to shatter the fourth wall of that highly functional setting just to shove in a bit of modern-day divisive socio-political messaging, like for example, if Gustav in the intro was being told by Mael that Sophie actually uses they/them as pronouns now or some other shit like that. And second, beautiful looking women. Female characters that actually look female. Something so silly, but that has just become so difficult to find in the AAA space. Specifically in the West, of course. And especially in games made in Unreal Engine where Epic Games lost their fucking mind and decided to change a bunch of crap in regards to the engine and the use of language in it. Seriously, they call it inclusive coding. And essentially, to not waste too much time on this, some retard thought that decade-old terms used in coding were offensive, patriarchal, racist, whatever-ophobic, so on and so forth, you get the drill. So they want their engine to conform to new language terms that try to eliminate gender and other things like that, often resulting in just new terms entirely. But that's not all. There's a good chance that the engine is also making it harder for developers to create appealing female characters because of Epic Games' commitments to what they call digital realism and inclusivity. Not too long ago, a developer shared a video and some information with Smash JT. It was basically showing how Unreal Engine's MetaHuman tool seemingly makes it extremely difficult to make good-looking women with feminine proportions. You basically have to create your own meshes in order to get by the default garbage that widens characters' jaws, among other things. I totally suggest you guys watch the video. It's an interesting watch, and the developer can explain it far better than I. I'll leave a link to it in the description. Some people, of course, call this a far-fetched conspiracy theory, but honestly, is it really? I mean, they're the ones pissing themselves over coding language. Terms like whitelist and blacklist had to be removed because these people are so sick in the head that they see racism in it. And that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to these language things in their coding. They're also the company that partnered with Dove to make this shit. We are bringing real beauty to the virtual world, an initiative to make female characters look like these because apparently this is what real women look like. They even substantiated this with a fake-ass study made by them stating that over 60% of the female gamers out there don't feel represented, and this needs to change. Preferably, it needs to change into this. If you're interested in more on this, you can check out one of my earliest videos. Sorry about the microphone quality on it, by the way, if you do end up clicking on it. Link will be in the description and on the top comment suggestions. So yeah, it was a breath of fresh air and a huge relief for people to see beautiful and attractive women in this game, despite the implication of the damn engine. These two little things were such a huge boon for this game right off the get-go because this has been a problem in so many prominent Western games already, that anytime a new game game is announced with beautiful looking female characters, it generates a load of buzz. And you check those comments and you see women praising it too because, surprise, surprise, women, much like men, like to play as appealing characters in their fictional video games. Imagine that. It's just such a welcome surprise to see a studio and a new game not following that stupid trend. It has literally become a marketable quality. Attractive characters have always been marketable qualities, but nowadays, the bar in AAA Western games has been lowered so much that all it takes is just creating a video game without ugly characters. You don't even need Eve from Stellar Blade anymore, all you need is a woman that looks like a woman. That's it. And that aspect of your game is going to be talked about positively. It's going to become a marketable quality. It's obvious that this is what sells. It's what people want. It's the objectively better choice, especially in action-adventure games and RPGs. Unapologetically appealing characters, not ugliness for the sake of some virtue-signaling bullshit. And this is but an example, a single example, of the many things that this ideology that sits behind the whole social impact, social change nonsense does to damage these companies internally and consequently the quality of their games. Another huge issue in these major companies is the red tape. There's something to be said for these massive teams all working in cold corporate environments. That alone, when taken to the levels of some companies like Ubisoft, where there's like 20,000 employees and huge claustrophobic HR influence, is already a bad thing that stifles creativity and dilutes a game's vision. You may have this fantastic idea in your head as a prominent creator, but now that idea of yours is going to have to get parsed through God knows how many people in committees fit to make sure that the idea is appropriate in various ways. Such as, for example, if it fits what they believe to be the current standards of what players want, like if it fits the current trend that they think is viable, which Expedition 33 absolutely does not. The genre alone and the turn-based combat style is enough to get it totally scrapped or forced to adapt to some changes. Or, for example, if it fits their requirements for monetization, gotta make sure that the game has open recurring content that is designed to artificially increase the playtime. So in other words, gotta make sure it's bloated the fuck so that players are engaged for longer and will be more likely to buy those microtransactions, which of course, Expedition 33 is not. It doesn't even have microtransactions. Or another example, back to what we just talked about, gotta make sure that the game ticks important boxes so that it's yet another piece of shit corporate-approved product pushing the same tired obnoxious messages and standards, following the terrible rules built on schizophrenic levels of oversensitivity, which Expedition 33 also does not. Definitely not with hotties like Lune and Ciel sporting jiggle physics plus those bathing suits. And definitely not with a main cast of characters that actually looks like they could plausibly be from some weird fantasy version of France instead of every other ethnicity known to man shoved in there just to fill those quotas. When you're not hindered by these things that can have your original idea get filtered by so many different little things, and you're also not being forced to adapt it into an already existing franchise that the company wants to push, then you are already several points ahead. And studios working for these bigger companies are several points behind. Expedition 33 could never happen under Ubisoft, for example, because they just want to keep making the same few games. Even when jumping into new IPs like Avatar or Star Wars, they are reusing their Far Cry and Assassin's Creed templates to build them, giving the developers working on those games very little wiggle room to come up with original ideas that would give these games their own identity. Although they're also written like shit, so, which is a whole other problem entirely. But anyway, yeah, I can't even imagine developers coming up to these higher-ups and going like, hey, I want to create my own IP, I want to create something totally original that doesn't connect to any other franchise, like I don't want to make another game in the Star Wars franchise, or I don't want to make a new game in the Avatar universe, I want to make my own thing. I can't even imagine that meeting taking place, let alone being accepted. And now, my favorite thing and the one that pisses people off the most. Hiring. I'm sorry guys, but when you're building a team, you want it to be a good goddamn team. Back when you were in school and your teachers came up to you guys and said, okay kids, time for a group project, and then you guys would form your own groups, you didn't want incompetent dumbasses on your team. Why would we ever go out of our way to pick people who sucked at what they did? Like, why would we go out of our way to pick the class clowns or the guys who dipped glasses all the time or the class dumbass? We just wouldn't. Same with playing football on the playground. We would gather up in a group, choose 2 captains, and then they would start picking players. Nobody wanted the kid who didn't know how to play properly. All the best players were the ones being chosen first. Sadly, in the games industry, there's a lot of people who just suck at their jobs being brought in, sometimes through DEI, sometimes through nepotism, and hey, sometimes because it just happens and a few can slip through the cracks. The problem is these people are often roaches. They never leave. And the worst part is when they come in to fill positions that are activistic in nature, like when these companies create these stupid departments that we just mentioned, it's kind of hard to name them because each company kind of has their own taste, you know. For example, CD Projekt Red keeps it simple, it's just called diversity and inclusion. I mean, if you take a closer look and you read the discriminatory shit going on in there, such as only offering game development courses to women while telling the men to fuck off, it's pretty disgusting. But at least the name is normal. At Rockstar it's called diversity and belonging or something like that, and at Ubisoft, I mean, Jesus Christ, just have a look at it yourselves, there's like 7 different separate ones. And boy oh boy, a lot of good they did them, huh? Anyway, these are all things that are cashing checks at the end of the month, know what I mean? There's loads of people being hired and paid a salary to hang around these departments, doing either nothing or doing their functions to create problems to complain about and either remove content or force content into it or alter content in these games so that in the next fiscal year they can try to justify their existence and stay in business instead of getting downsized. So again, they're spending money on internal departments that actively make their games worse. It's like putting money through a fucking paper shredder. And instead of hiring based on merit, based on whoever has the best fit for the company, you know, instead of choosing the best football player for their team, they are hiring based on discriminatory diversity and inclusion quotas, so that you can raise your team's ESG score. The ESG score is not going to get you to win the game, but, you know, at least you did something for social impact. Other problems that come with corporate culture is also a total disregard for people in general. Studios get a lot of developer rotation. When you corporatize, you lose that great aspect of building a team, an actual one. Developers become kind of obsolete. It's like a number in a chart. If they get some kind of setback or whatever, and they have to fire people fully knowing that they'll have to hire more sooner or later, or shuffle other developers from other teams within their studios, they're going to do it anyway. And guys, you know, I wish I could say that I'm not too upset over this particular point because of some of these companies having gotten so insanely bloated with so many thousands of developers. But like I said a few minutes ago, these people are roaches, man. The worst of the worst never end up leaving because these companies latch themselves onto these departments for their ESG scores. And not just that either, they love their diversity quotas. So the same way that you hire based on it, it wouldn't surprise me if they fire based on it too. After all, these quotas exist for a reason. They have targets that they must hit, and if they fail to hit those targets, or if their target numbers slip, then they may get negatively impacted by investment companies.
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year, and what we are doing internally is if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted. Okay,
we're doing the same thing.
And so it's just you have to force behaviors.
So I would bet that they do these layoffs with that shit in mind as well, just like they do hiring with that shit in mind. Literally taking individuals for nothing more than fucking numbers in a chart. Then people have the goddamn gall to slander me with all kinds of ists and phobics and this and that for not supporting this regressive bullshit that reduces and judges everyone based on their immutable characteristics.
What are you, fucking stupid?
If the irony of the situation wasn't so sad, it would actually make up for a great laugh. But anyway, besides that, this stuff obviously impacts team synergy as well, and it also brings about another issue to do with training. These companies and studios are too busy to spend time training anyone. They have tight deadlines. Hell, their deadlines are so tight that they will literally release games that are fucked up at launch just so that they don't have to delay them, and make sure that they release in the best shape they can be. Again, fellas, these aren't game studios anymore, they are corporate entities that happen to make games, so they're cycling devs in and out without any time to properly train them and have them fall into their roles. They're just another cog in the goddamn machine. That's why Unreal Engine is taking over everything. It's becoming the standard thing that everyone should already know how to use or be able to learn relatively easily as they work in the industry. Even a big company like CD Projekt Red has gotten rid of their own proprietary engine and will be switching to Unreal Engine 5 in the future, and that's a damn shame to see happening. Then another issue is the red tape and oversight. The more red tape you bring to the studio, the more problems you will generate, and the more problems you generate, the more the talented people from your studio will feel like leaving. And unlike the lower rung of developers, when they're good, when their resumes have some really impressive shit, they will actually do it. Some of them even end up starting their own studios or working at other fellow smaller studios. And this can both be a soft version or a more hardcore version. So for example, a soft version will be something that doesn't have anything to do with the culture war, and it's just the corporatization, ending up standardizing games too much that developers feel bored while working there, which is what happened with Expedition 33. The founder of the studio reported being bored while working at Ubisoft and wanting to strike out and make his own thing. And a hardcore version, things to do more with the culture war, can result in very steep drops of morale and the decimation of creativity and synergy in a studio. The mentality is that red tape is good because those elements that make up that red tape, such as overly strict HR, for example, are there to make the workplace safe, as if they were working at an oil rig or some shit. This is something that I will never understand. Like, you're basically a fucking office worker. The top thing to worry about in the workplace is your eyesight and maybe your circulation. So get a pair of glasses with anti-reflection lenses and stretch your legs every hour or so. That's it. They don't need to hire self-absorbed morons for these positions so they can pretend like they're doing so much work and virtue signaling about all manner of soft-coded bullshit that is very pretty to look at on paper and makes anyone criticizing it look like an asshole. But when you get past that and you just climb down the ladder to reality, you can see just how stupid it all is. It's just a workplace. Just work. Make some fucking games and go home. If somebody starts fighting someone, fire them. If somebody whips their dicks out in the office, fire them. Like, what is so difficult about this? Why do we need to pussify the entire culture of the workplace, of the brand of the company, over some hypothetical bullshit that barely ever happens? Or for the hypersensitivities of people who are just not right in the head? Let's just be honest here. People go off about microaggressions. It's in the name. Micro. The fuck are we making a macro issue out of a micro situation? Situations that often don't even exist. Like I said, nothing happens. It's just hypersensitivity. Why are companies building themselves and catering their products to these kinds of people? This is insane. All that this red tape ends up doing is getting everyone to walk on eggshells and turn these studios into terrible places to be at, into either a cold, soulless machine or a pussified echo chamber with this oppressive mist in the air where things like masculinity or masculinity adjacent things like female characters that look good or games with attitudes that appeal to men are looked down upon. And let me tell you something right now. This is the games industry. The top brands that climb to the top of the industry are mostly franchises in the action-adventure, shooter, or RPG genres. Franchises that have gone out of their ways to appeal to guys because guys were the ones coming out in droves and buying them. And the girls that came into the space as well and enjoy these products, enjoy them because they were the way that they were. It didn't mean that you needed to have a pair of balls in order to enjoy franchises like Dead Space or Gears of War or Call of Duty. You just needed to be into it. That's all this ever needed to be. And factually, it was more geared towards men because it was more men playing video games than girls. Especially, again, these types of games. Because of course now there's all types of other games and there's more girls playing video games because of those other genres. The thing that this industry does not understand is that those girls that are playing those little cozy genres, they don't want to play Doom, they don't want to play Call of Duty, they don't want to play these franchises that are geared for men. Even if they change them to try and appeal to them by putting garbage in them that doesn't make any goddamn sense, they're not going to come and play them because they're not interested in them. Acknowledging and appealing to a male fanbase has become an issue in this industry. It's something that these big companies, these consultants, the gaming news media, etc. view as a dirty thing. Masculinity is toxic and so that's that. And this is one of the biggest issues that these big companies in the AAA space are facing right now. Because so many of these big franchises that compose the AAA market are skewed towards male audiences. And they have no idea how to reconcile that. They have to make games for dudes, but they don't want to make games for dudes. This is like if a top cosmetics brand that built itself from the ground up by appealing to women suddenly flipped its narrative, branding and products to appeal to men, the majority of which don't even buy any of these things. This makes no sense, and yet here we are. And if you think that I'm making crap up like, oh Des, oh my god, you and your stories, go and look into the environment at Ubisoft as reported in 2024. Terrible morale problems inside the studios with such a claustrophobic atmosphere that punctuation and messages was scrutinized by HR to avoid microaggressions. Or look at Concord and what happened with that studio where the environment was so ridiculous that it enabled a culture of toxic positivity, ending up in nobody being able to scrutinize the work being done, so everyone just clapped like a seal, hoping not to trigger anybody else, all the way until the release date, and the game comes out and shuts down 2 weeks later. Or look at Obsidian and what just happened last December where one of the developers completely lost his mind online, revealing the kind of environment going on inside the studio where politics-obsessed weirdos like Matt Hansen had the run of the place, alongside a few other morons who were seen supporting him during that backlash through the leaked Slack messages. The studio also banned a bunch of people completely unfairly for just asking questions or expressing concern for the game after seeing a lunatic go off online. Then after that, the CEO puts out an internal memo which was also leaked, condemning whoever it was that leaked out the messages. Make no mistake guys, I know that as a CEO it's your job and responsibility to stop leaks within your company, but when you have a cabal of retards in your studio ruining its good name and severely damaging your upcoming game's reputation and the very harmony within your staff to the point where someone is risking their career to leak it out just to show people the lunacy going on inside, then I would say that leaked messages is the least of your concerns. To this day, the game came and went and there was never any apology from the studio or the developer in question for their actions. And of course it goes without saying, but yeah, Avowed doesn't even stand as a shadow of its former self when it comes to this studio and their ability to make good RPGs. It's just a damn shame to see such a fall from grace, such carelessness with their own identity. So yeah guys, I bring this stuff up because it's serious stuff. This devastates the studio and the content that they put out. Nobody is saying that it's the only problem that exists, of course not. There have been problems in this industry far before this whole wave of ideology took over. But it is one of the problems, and the big one at that, and the worst part about it is that people don't openly talk about it, and these companies still don't acknowledge it. Bringing this up is seen as some dirty thing. Why is that? What have I said throughout this video that has been so terrible? Why are some people so deeply in denial about this stuff? Stuff that literally comes down to common sense in many cases. This is a huge factor that so many downplay or straight up pretend like it's not happening. It's all just a big exaggeration or a conspiracy. Yet the games these companies are outputting speak for themselves. Some people like to just say that it's, oh, you know, it's nothing, it's just a bad game. Yeah, of course it's a bad game, because in the state that they're in, you know, their studios, despite all the resources, despite the huge workforce, despite the hundreds of millions of dollars, despite the industry connections, despite the fat marketing budgets that get their games out there in sight of everyone, they still can't make anything other than a bad game or a mediocre one at best. Games that are outperformed by a visual remake of a 2006 game and a turn-based RPG from a brand new studio composed of about 30 people. Another issue, and one that I bring up often, is the Hollywoodization of the games industry, with these studios spending money frivolously, overblowing their budgets into infinity and beyond, thinking that they're hot shit. Then they sell a normal amount of copies. Sometimes, honestly, it's even more sales than they deserve in some cases of really sloppy games, like what Ubisoft has been cooking for so damn long. But anyway, that despite selling normally, they're still reporting that the game sold under the expectations and is struggling to generate a decent profit margin. Well, of course it is. How could it not be? They are irresponsible with their spending. They're not a normal team of developers in a game studio making a game. They're big companies that have expanded so much that they can't even manage themselves anymore. It's just so much shit to deal with, and it honestly makes me wonder if AAA was ever meant to expand like this, up to this level. I think the furthest it should have gone is, for example, 2015 CD Projekt Red Witcher 3, which started with about 150 developers and then grew up to 250. I think that I also heard around that time that Bethesda, around 2015 with Fallout 4, I think they had 300 developers. That's a lot of people, but it's a credible amount of people for the huge project that it was, while still retaining their identities as studios that made games, even though of course Bethesda was in a bit of a decay because their writing, it's just been an issue. It's still an issue. It's probably going to remain an issue well into Elder Scrolls 6. But I was fine with the amount of developers that they had. I think that's fine. I think having a big studio with a lot of developers, with your history proudly displayed on your walls and hallways with giant posters, awards, statues, etc., I think that's all fantastic. I think that it's perfectly normal for a game studio to take pride in their work and in their legacy, so long as they continue to be first and foremost a game studio. As soon as you grow so much that now you're whoring yourself out to ESG because it's a corporate obligation, and you're hiring so many more people that you can't even realistically manage them, to the point where your studio culture is totally gone because there's no way to maintain that anymore either. Like, you've got so many people across so many different departments, and at times even across different countries, that thing that made you is gone. As soon as you grow so much that you need to worry about your image to the outside world, and you need to go out of your way to dedicate your brand to some really weird, underhanded cult-like shit such as politically motivated social impact and social change, and also having to dedicate yourself to programs and initiatives offering opportunities to young people to get into the industry, but you discriminate based on race, gender, or sexuality, such as what CD Projekt Red and Ubisoft are doing, offering them only to women because apparently it's a problem if the games industry is mostly skewed towards male. It's a problem if these studios are mostly composed of men. Never mind the game quality, never mind the talent, never mind if they fit or not, never mind anything. There's only one thing that matters. What is between their legs and what's the percentage? Men bad, women good, so let's get that equity cranking up so that we can get these percentages changed. What's that, Billy? You wish that you could get into a big, high-renowned studio such as CD Projekt Red? You've been actively self-learning game development, and it would be a dream come true to work on the next Witcher game? Well, that's too bad, Billy. Way too many disgusting males in these studios, so go fuck yourself. Better luck in your next life, dumbass. Anyway, sorry about that, let's get back on track. As soon as your studio grows into becoming this, that's when you've gone way too fucking far and it's time to turn back. That's when you are no longer a game studio. And when you're no longer a game studio, who gives a fuck about the size of the budget? Everything is still tied to the brand. Everything still needs to abide by those corporate rules and standards. If the corporate rules and standards are playing too far into that regressive shit that some people like to call progressive, such as making women ugly, completely destroying their self-esteem and self-worth, taking away their chances of having strong but also beautiful role models to look up to, the same way that boys had fit and badass role models to look up to as well, etc., then I would say that the budget won't matter. First of all, if Sony or EA or whoever else were making Expedition 33, they would have made a lot of bad decisions right off the bat because of their mentality. They would have seen the potential and they would have made all the expected mistakes that companies do with this stuff in mind. Several parts of this game's identity would be lost. The music wouldn't be as experimental, the genre would have 100% changed into another open-world action-adventure with light RPG elements because that's what's trending right now. Not Not that that's even a problem inherently, because I do love that genre, I enjoy it, but the game would have lost its uniqueness. The genre dictates a lot of things. A lot of the positives that come from this game, such as its style and flair, it would have just been lost if it got standardized. And then, depending on which studio is making it, we could have very well have gotten ugly-ass characters that don't fit their setting, packed with cringe dialogue to check their boxes.
Tosh, do you like being a woman?
Nobody likes being a woman.
Ah.
If something about being a woman is hurting you, I don't think it's stupid at all.
Some of my friends in Minrathous talk about not feeling comfortable in their own skin. As a man, as a woman. I could see if they'd like to talk. Maybe what they say fits how you're feeling.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you
We don't care.
Jerry.
And then by the end of it, instead of pricing this game fairly in accordance to its lower budget appeal, they would have charged us $70 for it, or at least as much as Astrobot at like $60. Sandfall Interactive priced Expedition 33 this low and offered discounts at launch because they wanted people to get their hands on this game. They wanted people to give it a shot, even if their wallets were a bit tight. In their own words, we are a small team with an indie spirit and we are creating something we believe is truly special. They wanted people to see this and go for it. They wanted the pricing to not be a limitation. When have you ever heard of such a thing from the AAA space? They don't do shit like this. Hell, they do the opposite. They will make a game they know is bad and in dire need of fixing at launch, and they will still sell it to us at full price. To this fucking industry, a lower budget is not a thing to do with intelligence, with being able to make a game with the highest efficiency possible. To them, it's just an opportunity to get more money. If they were able to replicate Expedition 33, they would be charging as much as they possibly could for it. That's just what they already do, on the regular. Just look at what's going on right now. All of these bastards are making loads of money every year. Despite fucking up, several of them are still getting by just fine. And the ones that are not, like Ubisoft for example, they are failing from their own actions, their own mistakes. Like, nobody boned them, nobody sabotaged them, they just suck. Despite them making money, of course they want to make more money, I understand this, that's what corporations do. But instead of trying to make good games again, which is their main problem, instead what are they doing? They're actively pushing for an $80 price tag for games. Nintendo already did theirs, Xbox just announced that as well a few days ago, and of course Sony and all of these other third-party publishers are due to follow next. If we don't push back, that's what's going to happen. They will all choose to charge us $80 for their garbage way faster than anyone chooses to learn from Sandfall Interactive and make a good game priced appropriately. Their greed just won't let them come out with a game of this type, by which I mean a single-player adventure that you can play well into 50, 60 hours or so, at $40 or $50. They just can't do it. Even if they spent a fraction of the money that they usually spend making games on making, their own versions of Expedition 33, their bodies would literally not allow them to do this. And that's if they could replicate it, which, based on all the points that we spent the last 40 minutes laying out, I don't believe that they can, not at their current state. These companies need a full top-to-bottom reset. They need to get rid of their out-of-touch executives, backseat developers, activists, and cringe departments. Get all of that shit out, it literally adds nothing of value. Then they need to stop acting like bankers and start acting like gamers again. F*** social impact. F*** social change. F*** the gaming news media. F*** the Game Awards and all their little quota requirements for eligibility.
Fuck the Oscars, Fuck the Oscars! Fuck you! I'll tell you!
Push all of that aside, reconnect with your franchise's audiences, and apologize by making the best damn comeback game that you can muster, price it fairly, and voila, your dumbass company is saved. You're welcome. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like to help the channel along, and if you're new, subscribe for extra sauce. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you guys on the next one.